Tonight, Megyn Kelly joins the NBC family, and she comes in like a house on fire with an interview with one of the most compelling figures in the world, Russian President Vladimir Putin. Very happy to have with us Megyn Kelly joining us to talk about a little bit from New York. Megyn, before we get into the substance of the interview, I'm always curious about those moments when you're sitting down together, clipping on microphones, adjusting lighting, about how you found the Russian president's demeanor toward you.
Well, I'll tell you what, Devin, first of all, thanks for having me. It was really eye-opening for me, and it was kind of riveting because before Friday, where we did the economic forum together and then I had my one-on-one sit-down with him, President Putin had invited me to, it's considered the presidential palace in St. Petersburg, a town in which he grew up, along with the Indian Prime Minister, Modi. And so I had a good hour in his presence and that of Mr. Modi to just chat and get to know each other one-on-one. They were having a dinner, a state dinner sort of cocktail situation. So we got to know each other a bit there, and that was the most interesting part for me, because when the cameras weren't rolling, when we weren't in an interview setting, he behaved as a gentleman. He was warm. He smiled a lot. He laughed a lot. He cracked jokes. I cracked jokes. And so it was somewhat surreal, right? You're sitting there with Vladimir Putin, and he was just like a different guy than we see here and the image that we have in our heads. Yeah.
Now, when you're interviewing somebody, and you've had this experience before, that you don't necessarily expect is going to be fully truthful with you, that's always tricky, made doubly difficult by the fact that all of your questions and answers are being translated. But I guess that's the question. At the end of the day, how truthful did you believe he was being with you?
Well, you don't know, Devin, right? Because this guy's a trained KGB spy.
Right.
And if you read up on Vladimir Putin, you realize that he actually has been trained in how to read a person and figure out what they need. So to this moment, I don't know whether Vladimir Putin read that I'm a mother of 3 children and I would respond well to the stories he told me and the warmth that he showed. One doesn't know. But one-on-one, it wasn't going to change the dynamic between us in the interview because, as you know, as a journalist, you have a job to do, and you have to ask tough questions, and I did. And to his credit, he took every one. He didn't rip off the mic. He didn't storm out of the room. He took them all. He was combative. He was feisty. It was fiery. It was downright tense at times. But we got through it, and it'll have to be the audience's job to figure out whether he was truthful.
Well, help me figure this part out, though. I'm still a little confused on where he is right now on this question of hacking and Russian involvement in the election. His story has changed a bit over the last weeks and even days.
Yeah, first it was they didn't do it and didn't know anything about it. Then it was maybe some patriotic Russian hackers did it, over whom the Kremlin had no control. And then with me, he changed it, which you'll see tonight, to maybe it was the Americans. And he goes on to say, in particular, maybe it was the CIA. And we talk about that in detail. And I ask him all the tough questions, Devin, about, did you know Michael Flynn? What did you discuss? What about Jared Kushner? Was there a secret back channel of communication established? Did you think that was bizarre? Do you guys have something on our president between this dossier we've heard about and the financial relationship that people have alleged? And we get into it all.
Well, lastly, Megyn, let me zoom out a little bit and ask you about the program you're starting. You are, of course, going up against one of the most the gold standard, really, of television news over the decades in 60 Minutes. Some would liken this to being an expansion team that has to play the New England Patriots every week. Tell me a little bit about what you want your program to be.
So I think that was a sports reference, which is completely lost on me. I'm going to look it up after the segment. You know, I generally believe in any competitive event, don't look at the competition, just play your own game. You know, the more you look over your shoulder at the other guy, the more you're likely to be a loser. Yeah. But the goal is not to take down 60 Minutes, which is a storied institution. As you know, they're not just #1, you know, on Sunday nights. They're #1 in all of news usually, and it's a great program. So that's not the goal. The goal is to do great journalism and maybe something that has a fresh, more cutting-edge angle to it. And I think the viewers will see that on Sunday night, and hopefully they will enjoy it.
Well, as I said, coming in, making a big splash with a story that a lot of people are going to be talking about tomorrow, no doubt, and I think other stories tonight, because that's not all you have this evening. Megyn, thanks so much for the time. We wish you all the best, and welcome to NBC. Megyn Kelly, Sunday Night with Megyn Kelly. This evening at 7 p.m., of course, the interview with Russian President Vladimir Putin, and you'll see it right here on Local 4.